record.
Okay. There you go. Okay.
Alrighty.
There you are. All right, we'll give folks a couple more minutes for people to come in, so we have a larger number. Although we do have a sufficient number to meet the quorum. So when I start to share my screen, I will probably not have the visibility or much visibility of people coming in. So fellow co-hosts, please admit people.
Yeah.
No problems. I'll do that as second
Thank
chair
you.
for this one.
All right, we are at 3 minutes past the hour. I think I probably should make a start. Let me share my screen. All right, can everyone see my screen, which has the meeting minutes and meeting agenda and minutes
Yes,
at the
we
space
can.
below? Yep. Okay. Cool. All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the HL7 AU5 group fortnightly meeting. So today we have a few very important agenda items to attend to. And Gil has kindly stepped in to take notes for us, and thank you, Gil, for that. So we have 5 agenda items on the draft agenda. So in orders of business, we'll move to approve the 2 meeting minutes, while one is still pending the co-chair's review. And then we'll look into the draft agenda to see whether or not there are any changes or additions to that. So there are 2 meeting minutes that's up for approval. So the first one is this one, which is a while ago. Actually about a month ago, on the 13th of October, and we have a number of agenda items that we have discussed, and the minutes are being recorded. So, and a number of action item arising. One of them has been completed. So that's meeting minutes number 1. Meeting minutes number 2 for approval, which is the face-to-face meeting last month, Q2 of the work group meeting. There are a considerable amount of people in the room, and we have taken good quality meeting minutes for that meeting. So I will put the meeting minutes in the link just in case, and in the chat just in case anyone wants to have a bit of perusing at your own time. So, questions to the group. All right. Anyone has any amendments that wants to make to the 2 minutes? The first one would be the virtual meeting a month ago. The second one is a face-to-face meetings about half a month ago, a bit over half a month ago. So anyone who has questions, who wants to make amendments, changes to the meeting minutes? All right, hearing none, can I have someone, we can deal with that one by one, or we can deal with them together to save a bit of time, given that I hear no dissent on the, or no questions raised for changing to the meeting minutes. I'm happy to entertain a motion to process the 2 meeting minutes as a combined action item. So I'm entertaining a motion to move the acceptance of both meeting minutes. One is the virtual meeting minutes on the 13th of March, and the other one is the Q2 meeting minutes are face-to-face on the 20th of March.
As I will move, Stephen. Brett.
Thank you, Brett. Can I have a seconder?
Sorry, Stephen, the only thing that's going to cause an issue is that like I need to abstain from the face-to-face because I wasn't there.
That will be fine. We are at the motion stage first.
Oh,
so can we have someone who also I mean, we have Brett now
I'll move
making
for
a
both.
motion.
Yep.
Anyone who want
Danielle,
to
I'm
second
happy
that?
to second.
Okay, Danielle second that. All right. Okay. Right. For since that we might have abstaining for one of those meeting minutes, so let's look at the virtual meeting first. For the virtual meeting on the 13th of March, anyone who wants to abstain? All right, hearing none. Anyone who oppose?
No, there
hang
was
on.
one person with
There's
their hand
one.
up.
Okay, there's one hand up.
Can we
I'm
put
just
the poll up?
abstaining.
Or
Or you have a question?
No,
All
no, no.
right.
I was just abstaining because I wasn't
Okay.
part of the meeting. Yeah.
That'll be fine. Yep. Barty, you want to abstain, so there's one abstain. All right.
and me.
Anyone oppose?
I
Sorry,
want to
hang on. I'll
abstain
just
as well. Sorry,
So who else?
Jane.
Jane. Okay. All right.
And Brian.
And Brian. All right. We have 3 abstains. Any more? All right. For the first meeting minutes, the virtual meeting, we have 3 abstains. Anyone oppose? All right. If not, then we can move on to the second one. For the second one, which is the face-to-face Q2 on the 20th of March in Sydney. Anyone who want to abstain? All right. Richard abstain. David abstain.
Jane.
Jane also abstain. All right. We have 3
And Brian.
abstain. Oh, and Brian. Sorry, I couldn't see. Okay, and Brian as well. So we have 4 abstain. Anyone oppose? All right. Hearing none oppositions, so we have approved the 2 meeting minutes on the on record. So the third one we'll deal with it at the next meeting. Okay. All right. We have 4 other agenda items to do. Update block updates on GitHub tickets block votes and updates on AU core ballot closing, and also looking into the ballot resolution process and the variance statement process and guidance on the FHIR artifacts and implementation guides. So anyone has any
Yeah, that was
changes?
my item. Yeah, that was my item, Stephen, on the block vote. We ran a block vote to.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
thanks, Brett. I just want the group to comment on the draft
On the
agenda
content.
to see whether or
Yeah,
not
no.
we're happy to move forward. All right, so in that case, then, hearing no comments on the draft agenda, so we will accept the draft agenda as the agenda item for this meeting. So we'll progress them one by one. So item number 2, updates to the block vote, block vote on issues on GitHub. There are 4 issues. One is the vaccination target disease value set. Another one is the dosage and body site and ethnicity extension and recording form of medicine. So I have a link in. I have this GitHub page opened. So Brett, you want to lead the discussions on this one?
Yeah. So we tried
Just-
to run 2 block votes. Yeah. Go on, David.
Well, so I mean, theoretically, they've met our minimum quorum. I'm not saying that's a good idea because that's only 4 people who voted, but we have met our minimum quorum of voting. And I think
Yes.
we probably want to put to this group on, do we keep that or do we want to keep it or go further?
Yeah, I think theoretical, in theory, yes, we have met the quorum for voting, but given the question is, do any of those does any of those items has the gravity significant enough for us to be wanting to hold out the block vote to a longer time, or do we as a group I think that it is trivial enough for us to sort of carry it with the votes. I have a hand up, Richard.
I think we should look at why the block vote is so low. In terms of these particular ones, we could ask, well, is it trivial enough? Can we let it through? But I think there's a bigger issue here. Well, this is very early in doing block votes. And so one of the things is, why have we got so few votes? Is it a lack of interest? Is it a lack of knowledge? What's going on here? So I think we should treat this as a general issue about getting a very small number of votes when we've got a large number of parties, rather than just working on whether these particular issues can all be approved. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Based on international experiences, block votes usually attract little responses. From what I've experienced or witnessed in the past sort of 20 years, because people are generally very busy. So while we can try to dig into the reasons as to why we attract such a low response in terms of block votes, but we also can acknowledge that that is by nature of people sort of busy work life and other activities that they need commitment on. So therefore, then people might not necessarily have the opportunity to vote online in terms of a block vote. And that's the reason why forum like this, a virtual meeting, that would, when we have sufficient people gathering at the forum to ask questions as to are we considering this significant enough that we want to extend, or are we happy to take them as is? So that's the question on the table. So I understand what you're saying, Richard, not trying to trivialize your comment, but there are kind of precedents to follow, if you may.
Right. I guess one of the things then is that if it's normal for very few people to vote in block votes, then I guess that suggests that stuff should only go to a block vote if it's the sort of thing where you can change your mind later without it causing real problems.
I don't agree. We did actually, as a FHIR Work Group, agree to take this to a block vote. Like, we discussed these and we said, let's go to a block vote. And so the expectation then is that the group would follow through with that. And I think that's what we should be doing.
Yeah,
I guess I'm thinking about this as a long-term strategy rather than about this particular one. I've got no problems with these particular ones running on their block vote. My concerns about what we do with block votes going forwards.
We
what we
open
do
it up
with
to people who didn't, I guess, block vote and ask, how can we? I would like to see if we can make that more attractive or easier for people then.
what generally are being done with block votes, and especially when block votes are being done online, is that there will always be follow-up virtual meeting to allow people who join virtual meetings to have a say. And I expect that this is the opportunity for people to have a say. So the question that I have on the table is that what do we want to do? Do we want to extend the online block voting time, or do we want to take it on here and process it today or at the next meeting?
I would like to do it today. And there are actually there are actually two blocks on that page with different.
We have 18 participants. And less me as the chair, we have 17 people who can vote today. So the question on the table is, are we happy to process them today? Now, if we are, then I have to time box it because we have several other agenda items to do.
I mean, we did spend time in a previous meeting discussing these groups already as well, and then put them to a block vote.
So when does this is an hour and a half meeting, correct?
I think I'm tempted to say that as nobody's talking about these who didn't vote, that we accept the block vote and just take them both as passed.
Or another alternative is that if anyone who feels passionate enough wanting to pull any one of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vote items out for further discussion, then we can vote to pass those that hasn't been pulled. And that's I think that's another option for us to do. So Brett, what would you prefer to do? Do you want to ask people to see whether or not anyone wants to pull any one of those items? All right.
Yeah, I think what I want to do is there's actually two blocks there, and this is, I think, the first one. But I would just open it up to see if anyone wants to add any further voting, and then end it. Yeah, move forward, because I think we have spent time discussing this in context before, and so I don't really want to spend more time.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
I will time box it to give it another 10 minutes for us to process this, and then we have to move on.
Can we actually look at the block vote request, like the actual? It's on the minutes.
On the minutes.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, there should be a link actually to the vote, I think.
That's the link.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a proposal there. There's those 5 issues there, and you can see the action there is to create tickets and put them on hold, basically. So that's basically a transfer out of those particular issues. So they're not closed as such, they're just put on hold. And then there's another vote underneath that, which is closure items, which I think were discussed as well. So there's, I think, 9 issues there that are slated to be closed. So no longer relevant or handed off to other groups. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I prefer people just, if there's any further things to add in terms of your position on this, please do, and then I'd really like to close it because it was it was extended already.
Okay,
Yep.
so this link, this is related to this first block, and then the next one
Hit that link.
is related to this block. So this block is voting to close. This is voting to approve. Is it correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Well, we'll approve and put on hold because then there's
approve
no plan. Yeah, so we basically transfer this set to the GitHub.
Okay.
Not GitHub issues, to the Jira issues, and they'll be they're on the backlog.
All right, so okay, that makes things a lot easier. So we are voting to number 1, transferring these 5 issues to Jira issues. That means that they are not closed, so that makes the decision probably a lot easier.
Yeah. Yep.
And this vote is that these numbers of items are being have been online voting to close them. Okay, let's look at the easy one first. The easy one is for transferring these 5 votes from GitHub to Jira. You want to put a motion on the table, Brett?
Yes, I would like to be if we accept the block vote.
I second that we move the block.
Yeah.
I second that we accept the block vote as passed.
Okay. All right, so we have Brett making a motion, and we have Richard second the motion. All right. Any further discussions? All right. Any questions? All right. If not, then let's call to the questions. Anyone who wants to abstain? All right. Hearing none. Anyone wants to oppose?
There's one abstain.
Oh, hang
We've
on.
got
One
Heath's
abstain.
hand up to abstain.
I can't see the hand up. Okay. Good. Thank you. There's one abstain, which is Eve. Anyone opposes? All right. I don't think that I've seen any hands up. All right. And hearing none. All right. So motion carried. Those 5 items I would be transferred to from GitHub to Jira. Okay. Then the second one is a bit probably maybe contentious. That is the block vote is about closing all these issue items here. So I'll pause a few minutes for people to look at these items. So what I will also do is post this link in chat. So if folks wants to take a look on your own, you are free to do so.
Could I propose that just if there's objections to doing this, accepting this now, I think we should just propose to leave the e-vote open until next meeting, and then accept that. Yeah.
I haven't.
Only if there's objection. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't entertained any motion as yet. So I am just giving the folks a couple of minutes to delve into this. That's the reason why I sent out the link. If people want to have a look at their own desktop, and I would then entertain a motion. And if the first motion is defeated, then we'll or amended, then we'll look at the motion accordingly. All right, so I think I've given folks a bit of time, at least to browse over if you were interested. All right, so Brett, I would entertain a motion from you.
Actually, I propose we accept the block vote as is.
I second that.
All right, the motion is accept the block vote to close all these issues. Motion by Brett and second by Danielle. All right.
These are removing from base, not core, right?
Yes.
So that
Well,
means
they're
there'll be no
closing.
representation of driver's license or passport number.
If you go to the, Stephen, can you go back to the vote itself
This one?
view? Yep. Which is suggesting that these issues are no longer relevant, so we won't transfer them to JIRA, and that we will close them, and that there might need to be a specific project or someone to raise them if they want to champion these forwards.
So there are
Okay.
4 reasons for closing them that's being listed here under rationale. So
Yeah,
Brian,
essentially we're not choosing to transfer these to JIRA, and we're saying that after review we think these are closed from the GitHub perspective with those different rationales. Doesn't mean that people can't raise them as specification issues and champion them forwards.
Okay.
right. Yeah, it doesn't mean that no one in future can raise any issues. It's just that for now, because of those assessment resulting in those rationales being identified, the proposal is to close all these items as per block vote.
Okay.
All right. In that case, then I have one questions raised by Brian that has been clarified. Any other questions? If no questions, any comments? All right, hearing none. Have I missed any hands up? Nope. All right, in that case, then let's call to the question. Anyone abstains? Okay, I don't see that there's any hands up. Anyone oppose? All right, hearing none, then motion carry. We have 1700. And
Thank
the
you.
previous one is 1601. Okay, so that's done. And thank you. Hang on. Oh, where's the my mistake? I closed the wrong window. Apology. Let me find the meeting minutes. There we go. All right. Agenda item number 2. Updates on the closed AU ballot for AU core. Brett or Daniel, which one of you want to take the lead on leading the discussion or update?
I wrote this ticket so I could do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just Daniel might weigh in. Yeah. So it's just to note that the AU core ballot has closed.
Do we have stats?
We have stats. I will just drop the link in the chat.
I'll share my screen if you want.
Oh, you got
All right. If you want
Yeah.
to share the screen, I will
That's
stop
probably
sharing.
easy.
So you
That's
can
all right.
show the screen.
Yeah, you got it. Cool.
Okay, so this is, I guess, what we're really looking for, this bit.
Yep. So cool. Yep. So we had 78 people sign up from various organisations. We did have 43 no votes, we did have a bunch of problems with permissions and access, which may have affected that participation, but that's something to note. And then we did have plenty of negative votes and some abstains and affirmatives. But yeah, so basically there's a good set of issues. I think we, based on our selection criteria, about 170 odd.
Let me just get to the
Yeah.
page. I swear I've got it open somewhere amongst one of my many tabs. Apologies, wasn't
100,
prepared for this one.
177 from memory.
Yeah, initially, and we're going
Initially?
through and adjusting the ones that are out of scope.
Yeah.
So I can
yeah,
get to ballot reconciliation.
yeah, perfect.
So yeah, there are 170. There's a filter here. If people are interested, we can pop that in the chat. Let me just find that. This
Cool.
filter
Can
is
we,
actually. Oops.
sorry, Daniel, can we pop that in the chat and then capture it in the meeting minutes?
Oh.
I've got the summary already, so yep.
Okay,
Thanks.
cool.
Thanks, Kev.
So this is bigger than what is actually voted on. And Brett can, with his HL7AU hat, can talk to that, which is related to the
Yeah.
technical issues that impacted the no vote.
Yeah, we definitely had a bunch. We had a lot of JIRA login issues. So people that didn't have accounts, people had mismatched accounts to their with emails mismatching their logins. So the plan is to actually put a mitigation in for that next time. So we'll probably be getting people to sign up for ballots through JIRA. So that'll stop that problem happening again. This is generally because we don't have the same membership sort of participation set up as international, so we had to maintain that independently. We'll hopefully prevent those problems happening again. We did resolve a bunch of problems for people along the way as well, so there's definitely that was possible. We did have some people with some problems right at the end trying to vote, so what we did was actually say any issues that were raised through the ballot period were included in this in consideration. So whilst no votes may be cast against those issues, the AU Core TDG is looking at all of those and triaging those. Obviously come August for the next round, this is a draft for comment ballot, so the consequences of not being able to vote are quite less. So basically we're just looking for the feedback. So that's what we've done for this round. So that leaves us with that 177 votes of issues of interest, and the triage has started on that. We spent a day on that.
I think I'll have to update the count because I think there's actually more than that. But most of them are duplicates. I think there's a few duplicates and some other things for if we went like an untriaged account, I think pushes the number of change of specification feedback raised in the period, puts it up to something closer to 200. But we'll come back with
cool.
So the AU Core co-chairs, I guess, once we go through this, we'll come back with some clearer stats back to the FHIR Work Group on how that ended up playing out. Because we've also got some out of scope things that are about the HL7AU template itself, or things that might be the FHIR standard that we're trying to go through, as well as those things that we're kicking back to that we think actually need to be resolved in AU base and come into this group.
That's probably the most relevant set for us, is that those ones that have been deemed to be AU base related, and so they will explicitly come to us as things to resolve. So we will be notified of that officially by the AU Core TDG, and that will then become some items for us to consider.
The other thing I'd like to call out, just to qualify, we're treating, except for a couple of special cases based on HL7AU's request, that any issues raised in that ballot period are as ballot issues, but the ones that therefore don't have a vote on them are considered, I guess, to be affirmative rather than negative. Not that again that really matters for a ballot for comment, but just in case. The other thing that I think is relevant is not all the reasons that there are no votes are due to the technical issues. I think a very high proportion are, but not all of them are. I don't know, Brian or Stephen, if you guys can comment on what the proportion of no votes tends to be on international ballots out of interest.
I can't remember off the top of my head. There are some minimum percentage that needs to be met. I think that I from my recollection, for people who register to vote, there has to be about 70% of people who actually voted for it to be counted. But I am a bit fussy on the stats. I would have to take this on advisement and come back with more solid figures. Brian, do you have any supplementary informations or more accurate informations to shed some lights on?
Yeah, nothing further from me on that. That's about where I am.
Yeah, I know that from international perspective, there are certain percentage that needs to be met, but I am a bit fussy on the figures. But I will come back to this group with more solid information.
All right, I can stop sharing my screen there. I just wanted to, I guess, bring those stats up, and you can have that back, Stephen.
Thank you.
I have a
Richard's
question.
got his hand up. Yep.
Now, if I caught that right, no votes are treated as if they're yes votes. Is that right?
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant was if in the special case where we are treating all specification feedback that was raised during the ballot period as ballot comments, even though they haven't been voted on.
Yep.
We're treating those comments as affirmative.
Oh, why treat them as affirmative rather than as abstains? Because I would think abstain is closer.
You can't abstain on specific issues. Oh,
Perfect.
well, it's
Thank
not
you.
meaningful. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Right. Thank you.
The problem with that, like I had, is that I got a mismatch in emails between international and Australia. So I had to put the issues in. I only put issues in that would have been marked as negative. So to make all of them affirmative, I think Brett,
I voted negative on them all. That I did do that for a couple of people. There were a couple of people that failed to sign up to the ballot, and there were a couple of people there that had particular issues getting access, and that wasn't resolved. In the for this round, I have voted negative on those to make sure they're in the ballot cycle. But having said that, we have extended at least the consideration of all the issues across to issues that didn't have a vote on them. So I think that there was definitely, the agency had some problems, and I think there was a whole bunch from Richard that we are including in the consideration without having a vote on them. So basically not ideal. So we're working on making sure everyone can actually vote. So there's going to be probably a couple of extra things in the next cycle. The sign-ups will be different, and also we will probably get people to check earlier. A lot of the issues we had on voting were raised in the last couple of days from the original date that we were meant to close. It'd be better if we actually confirm this stuff earlier on and get people onto the right track to getting things resolved if there are issues. Obviously, ideally, people can raise issues in JIRA at a minimum. Would be a good start. So from there, I think, hopefully we have a better experience next time. But that's notable for this set. We had to do a
couple of things there. And so there's two things I want to unpack there. One is about like the August ballot. Like this, we wouldn't take this approach in the August ballot. That won't be acceptable. We've got to resolve these technical issues and work out how we do that from the purposes of AU base and AU cause meaningful, I think, ballot there. I think for the requesting, that's again less important and softer because it's a ballot for comment. But it'd be great if that was resolved. But I don't think we wouldn't entertain this kind of approach. And I think, Brett, you're already considering with your HL7AU technical advisor hat on how we avoid this in the first place.
Yes, there's definitely things, technically we can do to make the sign up different to ensure that you've got your Jira account active, at least. So that should hopefully get a bunch of people sorted. I mean, also we have resolved a number of people have their accounts sorted out now, so that should hopefully help as well. But yeah, we'll try and. I don't think, like Danielle was saying, I don't think we can really accept, doing it this way when we're asking for standard for trial use approval. So yeah, we'll have to make sure it's working.
I think the sub part of that is potentially HL7 Australia posted a workaround, but right at the very end where people could comment whether they were registered voters, they could comment on what their vote would be as a comment in the ticket. Nobody took that up. I think that's because it came at really the 11th hour. And I think we need to have a workaround prepared so that people could apply that.
Yeah, that's good. We can formalize that and make that part of the understanding, I guess, in how things are going to run. So we don't have to sort of do things on the fly. Yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah,
sorry, please go ahead, Stephen.
I consider that because this is the first round that HL7AU is progressing the ballot in this way, so therefore there are understandable teething problems, and that would be related to technical, procedural, policy, and administrative type of issues. And I do take your point, Daniel, that because this is the ballots that falls under the for comments and also informative ballot type of nature are less severe, and I agree that if it's the STU ballot or normative ballot, that kind of treatment would raise concerns. So I think at this moment, I think we can consider that these are interim sort of procedures that results in some teething problem that shouldn't be repeated when we go into STU and also normative ballots. Is that a fair summation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I also want to say, please go ahead, Brett.
Oh no, I might be saying the same thing. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not sure you are. I was just going to say big thanks really to HL7 Australia to organising this and making sure we had a ballot for comment now so that we can go through this process and work this out. Like it's been really good experience for us to go through this. So great idea, and thank you very much for sorting this out for us, Brett, and the rest of the HL7AU folks.
Oh, that's good. And I just because I certainly like HL7 International as well, and the project management people have helped out a lot getting it all sorted, and just what's needed to happen for affiliate voting, which is different than the international setup. So they've certainly been helpful as well in terms of what we need to do. And so they've learnt a few things along the way as well, just for us going through this process. So that's really good. And I think as well, it was notable even, with some of the big multinationals, we had international voters effectively. So we had like Epic voters, voting on our ballots, really good feedback and information, and some, I think that's really important as well, because that sort of broadens out the sort of consideration we're getting just by having it run through this tooling set rather than sort of being a really local set of activity. So that's really good. And I think the feedback has been good. People were very pleased that we did it this way at International, I think. So there was, I think, good feedback that they were pleased that affiliates could do this. And I think we've learnt some things, and we're kind of also going through this experience with the New Zealand affiliate, so we'll be feeding stuff across to them as well in terms of what we did and what problems we've had. Yep.
So I think with that we have dealt with bullet point number 1 and bullet point number 3. So I think we still need to touch on the second bullet point, Brett?
That was that list. Noting that's just noting the FHIR Work Group issues that will come to us because they've really been triaged to be not directly AU Core related material. So I expect we will need to once that triage is sort of completed and the AU Core feeds through that list to us, we will have a list to work on. So it's just to note that will be coming up. So we will need to do, essentially the co-chairs will need to do our own FHIR Work Group triage, decide what to do with the group and how we're going to resolve things. So that was just to note that's going to happen. Yep.
So in summary, there are two buckets that will come out of this ballot cycle. One is the AU Core bucket, the other one is AU Base bucket, and we will be dealing with the AU Base bucket when it's all been settled. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So that will come to us, and we will have to make our plans on how to resolve those and any actions we're going to take with AU-based publications.
Okay, wonderful. So that's a good segue into bullet point number 4. Who would want to take a lead on this?
Well, that's my one again. But I think basically, I think the AU Core TDG is working through their resolution processes, and I think it's there was the need to try and document that, and in terms of just highlighting that process for HL7 Australia sort of operations and how it works, and especially highlighting with our slightly unusual situation of having an AU base and how that might play out with ballot resolutions and things like that. I have a task to develop that in some more detail. There's certainly some material already been produced, but by Danielle and others. But yeah, hopefully to get that into a more formal thing for the FHIR Work Group review. So yeah, so basically that's to come as well, and we'll try and formalise the ballot resolution process with some more governance material for the affiliate to hold. Yep.
Danielle, go ahead.
I was going to say, so we've got the AU Core TDG's kind of first go at let's do ballot resolution together on our next AU Core TDG, which is the 18th. So that's next week. And I'm hoping, Brett, we might have the HL7AU rough cut of that process to take to that meeting. Like Stephen's put together a pretty good list of points for us, and we've got the HL7 international material from like the governance and operations material and the rest of it.
So my plan is to sort of put that into a structured page and try and present that back. So if that works,
Yep, that's wonderful. That actually was my one a question that I want to raise as to sort of what would be the outcome. So the outcome will be there will be a set of structured informations on a conference page for our members and stakeholders to read and comment on. That's good. All right. Any further discussions on bullet point number 4 on the agenda? All right, hearing none, then let's move on to number 5, variance statement process and guidance. I think we did touch on this a fair bit during the work group face-to-face meeting. Danielle, your baby, is that one? So you want to lead the discussions on this one, or is that Brett's
this one I'm pretty sure is Brett and potentially Dushy sharing screen to bring back to the group on, because you're right, we've talked that through in the last couple of meetings, and I think this one's showing what that in progress looks like, and agreements with the group maybe.
All right, I will stop sharing so that I will let Dushy or Brett sort of drive the discussion.
So I think Dushy will share.
Yeah, I will share my screen now. Okay, I've shared. Let me know if you can see it.
Yep.
Okay, and Brett, do you want to?
Well, I'll just give some context and maybe you can go through. So basically, this was around the variance statements and what that means. So we did discuss this at the face-to-face meeting, approved a proposal around what that might be. And so Dushi has been diligently working on drafting up some material around this. So I think Dushi, you can probably just take us through it. That would be good. But primarily there's a bunch of like explanation here and detail on how and why variance statements exist. The expectation is this will move into a governance statement as well in terms of what a IG variance statement is and why it exists and how to do it, with some advice on and guidance on that. This material is covering that. So this will probably move to the governance pages in HL7 Australia governance pages as a specific section. And I think Dushi's also got some examples and other material as well. Do you want to just run through, Dushi?
I will. Okay. I wasn't prepared for it, but I'll try my best. So
I'll
this
jump in
is, yeah, thank you. So this is the very, very drafty proposal for variance statement in current draft IG, AU draft IG. So as Brad said, as you know, just talks in general about the proposal, and I think eventually that will look very different once we have the actual process documented. Then I've tried to document some guidance on what actually is considered a variance and what changes are considered variances and what's not a variance. And as Brad said, that will eventually move into the variance process documentation. So did you want me to run through this, Brad, or do you want to talk about it, or?
More just, I think, I mean, there's material here and this will be coming out in a form for consumption. So maybe we could take it on to let people know where that draft material is.
Okay.
In the interim,
this is actually,
but
this is actually in my FHIR currently, but I'm going to move that into a branch on the draft IG repo in GitHub. So I'll do that straight after this meeting, and then I can send the link. Yes, Danielle?
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I think, Brett, you're developing the material. Can you maybe just send, maybe we could just send
I'll
the
send
email to the FHIR Work Group when you've got a draft that you want the group to look at?
I think that's the best way. So we'll get it together and have something that's reviewable, somewhere accessible. And So I think there's definitely things to talk about on how interpreting some of this stuff too. That would be probably specific items on what is it, especially what is a variance and how, with the actual specific considerations. So this material does go into that level and about to, what things you would look for to note that you have a variance. It's all basically around, are you conformant to the underlying specs or not? But there's a few things there that it may not be apparent that especially with terminology and terminology binding, that you may or may not have a variance. So it's worth getting into. Dushi's also working on some examples and things like that to show how that might manifest. But also there is, some formality as well as how we would like the statements to be structured, and also the words that are used to describe the variance. So that will hopefully give some consistency to different IGs and be able to be used as hopefully make the job easier as well in terms of what to put on the page and how to state it. So there's some guidance there around that as well. We're basically fleshing that out. We'll get it more organized and published somewhere, I think, for review. And that's probably about it, really. And I think Dishy, you've got an example. You're still working on examples of what it looks like.
Can you see it? I sort
Yeah.
of scrolled down, so I've
yeah,
tried
okay.
to. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'm still working on some examples, especially where there are variances against AU base or AU core. But I think it's important to note that all IGs or downstream IGs are expected to have variance statements against AU base and AU core, with the exception of AU core, of course, which will only have variance against AU base. And we did provide some wording that can be copied and pasted into the IG when there is no variance from AU base and AU core. And I'm still working on examples of variances that are reported or should be reported on the page. So I've got some down here for variance from AU core, where practitioner role profile is in a downstream IG has relaxed some of the rules that are specified in AU core profile. I don't know if everyone can see that.
Why do you describe that as relaxing from what is in AU core? Because I expect that what you do is you actually depend upon, you actually derive from AU base in that case. So I'm just sort of find it an interesting way to describe it, because I was thinking of
Maybe because
you've looked at
yeah.
AU core and you've said, I can't use AU core because of, so I'm going to use AU base because that allows me to. And so I'm just thinking the language you've chosen there suggests that somehow you've followed AU core, but you haven't. But in a sense, what you've done is you've, I
know. I literally did this one like 5 minutes before the meeting,
look,
so
okay. Look, if it's
it
5
hasn't
minutes
been
old,
thought through.
if it's 5 minutes old, no comments.
Yes,
You will
thank
fix
you.
anything I see.
Yeah. This still needs to be fixed. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's but I think it's just trying to find a good example of what we're talking about as well. So I think this is the right kind of thing I think we're talking about. So it's a lot of it's about cardinality differences where effectively in your profile you can create non-conformant content under your profiles downstream, where it wouldn't be conformant to AU core. So and I think this will be an interesting discussion, because I think as we go through even the e-requesting TDG work and trying to assess what's happening with profiles there, exactly what does it mean for the downstream IG as well in terms of what is expected. So I think this will be a good exercise in how to make use of AU core, and we will develop it as we go forward. So but I think it's we're looking for a starting point and some clarity on what we're kind of expecting. So this should be good for that.
Okay, thank you, Danielle, and thank you, Brett, and thank you for questions on that. My question on this is next step. What will the next step be for this one?
I think the plan is Dushi and I will continue to work on the material, get it into a location and publication that's suitable for review, and send out an email to the group to that effect to review it, and probably consider an agenda item in the future to either discuss or discuss any feedback or things on that, and eventually we will head to probably voting on it as a accepted FHIR Work Group process, because we will be involved in kind of assessing IG content as part of this.
Sounds good. So will this, from timeline perspectives, will this be something that will be available before the August ballot? Granted that I don't have visibility as to what will be on the August ballot, but there might be other artifacts that might benefit from this variance statement and guidance material.
Yep, I think that the plan is to get this very much organised in the next. I'd say like probably in the next month to have this a working version of this sort of approved, and then that will be fed into the ballots coming out going forward. So I think basically we're just heading towards having a standing position that the FHIR Work Group accepts. So I'd like to think we could turn this around in the next month and have that ready to go.
Okay, sounds good. All right, that wraps up all the agenda items that we have on the draft or on the agenda section of this meeting. Any other business? Anyone has any other business that you want to raise? Okay, doesn't seem to have any other business. So going forward,
Actually,
future. Yeah,
Can I just double check? I saw a note somewhere, Brett, about cancelling a meeting. Is there a proposal to cancel a FHIR Work Group meeting? Just
I have not. I know not from me. Not that I know.
okay. I
Yeah,
must have mistaken that for something else then.
maybe. Oh yeah, I'm not aware of any cancellations.
Okay. No, great. Ignore that then. Sorry.
All right. Okay. Then I think for upcoming meetings, then the co-chairs would have to look at the agenda setting to time box some of the time for the ballot comments, discussions, and other businesses. So that's something that the co-chairs will have to do during their co-chair meetings. All right.
Excellent.
So I assume that there's no other business to discuss, so we can give you back 25 minutes of your day.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll
Thanks, everyone.
announce that this meeting is now adjourned. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your participation. See you next time.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Bye.
Thanks, folks.
Can I ask the co-chairs to hang on, the FHIR Work Group, if they're still there?
Okay. I'm still here.
Great.
Let's have we stopped recording?
We'll do that in this. I'll stop it.